Hey, what's up everyone? I'm back on my Technomancer, but this time using a starter build I put together. This is a bare minimum build that'll allow you to clear tier 1 to tier 15 pod rescues solo, and can be easily upgraded as you progress through the game, using any kind of tier 3 armor/weapon mods that also includes legendary weapons and armors. Even the attributes are not a big issue either with this setup, for it's very forgiving and has a lot of leeway. Don't forget to subscribe for weekly Outriders content. I also have a Discord set up for anyone looking for help or just people to play with in the game. A link to that will be in the description down below. Let's start the build up with our main weapon of choice. That's going to be our only weapon, a purple assault rifle. You're going to want to use the burst fire variation on it because it offers you the most damage and bonus crit damage out of the other variations. With the attributes, I have it perfectly rolled with crit damage, long range damage, and close range damage. You don't need to have all three attributes on for this build to work. Obviously, it works much better with all three, but if you can get at least one attribute, crit damage or long range damage, that will be enough. Having two would be better, but this is a budget build. The only complicated part about this set is the mods you'll need for this weapon. You're going to want Anomaly Enhancement, which gives you a 40% firepower boost based off of your anomaly power. The second mod is Bone Shrapnel, that makes an enemy explode after killing them, dealing 230,000 damage in a 5-meter radius with a 1-second cooldown. This is going to give us a lot of area of effect damage. What makes this a bit complicated is that they're both tier 2 mods, making it a bit difficult to get both equipped on, but compared to the rest of the weapon mods, these two outshine them by a mile. There isn't any other tier 1 and tier 2 mod that can compete with how useful these two are. That's everything for the weapon, so let's move over to the armor. Starting off with a purple variation helmet. Every piece of armor is going to be a purple variation because that's the best right before legendary. It has the perfect desired attributes of bonus firepower, cooldown reduction, and long range damage. Again, the odds of you getting a perfectly rolled piece of armor are low, so the main attributes you'll want are either bonus firepower or long range damage. Always aim to get at least one of those two attributes to increase your damage and make the pod rescues easier. Let's go into the mods now. For the first mod, I went for Ice Component, which is going to let my turret apply freeze instead of toxic, stunning enemies in place to make them easier to kill and not let them get too close to me. Then the second mod is Toxic Lead. Killing an enemy afflicted by Toxic refills 40% of the ammo in my magazine so we can avoid reloading. Another thing I did with this build is every piece of armor has a tier 1 mod and a tier 2 mod to make it a lot easier to put together. Onto the chest piece now. I was able to get bonus firepower to increase my damage, followed by close range damage, which isn't the greatest, but that's a damage source, so not the worst. Then lastly, skill Life Leech, which is kinda bad considering this is a firepower build, but more types of healing though. With the mod selection, I actually have Frostbite equipped, which is useless because we're not going to be using that skill. So I'm one mod down with this build and still able to clear tier 15 pod rescues. A good tier 1 replacement mod for this would be either more damage or Knockwave. But if you want the best option, you can go with Damage Absorber or Mitigation from Death to make you more tanky. But these are tier 2 mods, so it'll be a bit harder to get on. For its second mod, I went with tier 2 Radical Therapy to increase my damage against enemies afflicted by Toxic. Next up, the legs. Having none of the desired attributes, but having max health to make me a bit more tanky, then followed up by cooldown reduction and status power. With the first mod, we have the same situation as a chest piece, an undesired tier 1 mod, Spare Mag. It's not horrible, but we already have all the tier 1 mods needed for this build. So a mod you could swap it out for would be Dum Dum Bullets or Plate Piercer for extra damage. The second mod I have on is Freezing Boost, increasing my damage against frozen enemies. That mod works really well with this setup because I have the mod Ice component making my turret spread freeze, so I'll be doing extra damage to those frozen enemies to kill and refill my ammo much easier. Let's move to the gloves. I have the attributes of Anomaly Power, Cooldown Reduction, and Status Power. You're probably thinking, oh, no damage attributes, that sucks. But there kinda is one. The Anomaly Power attribute actually increases my firepower because the mod Anomaly Enhancement that's equipped on my gun. Not as good as having bonus firepower or long range damage, but it's at least something. We have a similar situation with the first mod again. Trick Up the Sleeve refills 30% of my ammo on kills, but I already have Toxic Lead to cover my ammo. So having 2 mods for ammo is a bit overkill and not really needed. A mod that could replace this would be one of the 4 tier 2 mods stated before. Again, not the end of the world and still able to get through tier 15 pod rescues, which is the main focus. For the second mod, which is very important to this build, Crit Stack. Landing critical shots will increase my firepower and anomaly power, stacking up to 5 times and lasting 5 seconds. Because of the mod Anomaly Enhancement on my gun again, that anomaly power is actually extra firepower as well, just stacking on top for more firepower. A really key mod to this build. Last up, we have the boots getting one of the desired attributes, bonus firepower, then having skill life leech and cooldown reduction. Going to the mods, I have Critical Analysis on to increase my crit damage while Blighted Rounds is activated, and Bloodlust, which is another huge key mod that's going to increase my firepower by a lot. That's everything covering the weapons and armor, so let's hop over to the skills I'll be using. First up is Blighted Turret. I went with this skill so I could get a damage boost that's in the class tree, freeze enemies to give me some crowd control, and then do extra damage to those enemies to kill them easier so I can get ammo back much quicker. The second skill is Shrapnel. Only reason I chose this skill was because the damage boost I get from the class tree. If you manage to get the mod more damage, increasing its damage, it'll have another use. Also, because I have some skill life leech attributes, it's another way I can get a pretty decent instant heal. The last skill is Blighted Rounds, increasing my damage and keeping my ammo full so I'll never have to reload. Very straightforward. The best way to use these skills is by constantly whipping out Shrapnel to get a weapon damage boost and placing the Blighted Turret near stronger enemies. The turret is going to freeze them up for extra damage and make it easier to land those critical shots since they can't move, making those stronger enemies easier to take down. Now let's dive into the class tree. I went with the top branch to grab weapon damage, skill life leech, armor piercing, crit damage, a big node that applies vulnerability when toxic is applied, and another node that increases that effect. Then grabbing long range damage distance decrease, weapon damage, a big node that increases my weapon damage when I use the skill Shrapnel, increased damage to toxic, weapon damage, another big node that increases my assault rifle damage, another assault rifle damage node, armor piercing, receive and give more damage, increased long range damage, a big node that increases my anomaly power, which again goes nice with the mod Anomaly Enhancement, 50% increased magazine size, increased toxic damage, and lastly another big node that increases my weapon damage whenever I activate the skill Blighted Turret. That's everything for today's video. If you want to see more starter/beginner builds for the other classes, drop a like and let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to join the Discord if you're looking for more people to play with, or just help in the game. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.